Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ziheng, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about my experience sitting for History Paper 1 and TMUA. But before we start, I have a very important thing to note, is that I will not talk about the details of each paper, and because I'm pretty sure there was some sort of confidential agreement with Cambridge or whatever, that I'm not supposed to leak the papers. And I'm just not going to talk about the details of the exam in general. The second thing I want to note is that, as you may see in this video, that I have bought a green screen and used background effect. So if you think that this is an improvement, please let me know. But you think, oh, this is terrible, also please let me know. So I welcome any comments about the green screen or about TMUA or about History Paper 1. Just let me know, right? And if you need to contact me, you have my email address. So let's get started. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to tell you my experience sitting for the TMUA. And I think that's pretty much the main thing that you're concerned about. And I'm going to tell you how I prepared for it and my experience on the test day. And after I sat for the paper, what do I feel about it? So let's get started. So how do I prepare for the test? Well, I think I started in mid-September around that time. And it was 1 month and a few days before the official test date, which was on 18th. And so I started preparing 1 month earlier, but I devoted all my time into preparing for the papers. My family just sort of dedicated a room for me, and I was just spending my time every single day, starting from 5 a.m. in the morning, and then after that, my breakfast was just doing maths questions one after another until 7 p.m. So it was quite intense, and that happens every single day. Before I started preparing for TMUA, I was preparing for my history exams, but then I decided that maybe TMUA was slightly more important for my current scenario because history A-level has four components, four papers, right? In the worst event, I had one, I completely wrecked one of the papers, which is paper 1. I still have 3 opportunities to get back up and maybe get an A. But TMUA was just one trial. You either get it or you don't. So I decided, okay, maybe I'm just gonna prepare for TMUA more. Yeah, so I started doing TMUA every single day and sort of neglecting my history papers until 2 days earlier, 2 days before the test date, which was 16. I suddenly decided that, well, I couldn't just completely neglect my history paper 1. I still need to prepare for it. So I started preparing for the paper, and it was a disaster, right? Because I started doing practice, and I could never seem to complete all the questions on time, right? It was every time I started doing it, because for history paper 1, it was just 1 hour and 15 minutes, and you have to complete 2 questions, which was based on source analysis, and it was just a lot of reading, and you have to form a judgment and do source evaluation. Right. So I'll briefly touch upon my history paper later on. So I decided that I need to put in some more work. So on 16th and 17th of October, I was just preparing for my history. And those 2 days when I did not do any TMUA maths question at all, I sort of feel terrible that I'm not preparing for TMUA, which was a very important test. But it was just 2 days, and the rest of my time was devoted to TMUA. Yeah, so that was just my preparation for the test. So if you wonder why I have not uploaded video since 2 months ago when I uploaded the video about my SAT results, that was probably because I need to prepare for my TMUA and history. That's why. Yeah, but now that I get through it, I think I have some time to sort of give you an update about my life right now. Yeah, so let's get into it. And so that was my preparation. On the test day itself, so I arrived quite early at the city center. It was near the National Library I sat for the test. And so I did the paper around afternoon, and I was I did the history paper one first before I did TMUA. So history paper one was 1 hour and 15 minutes, and TMUA was 2 hours and 30 minutes. It was just nearly 5 hours of non-stop thinking and doing exam questions. So it drains your mental capacity very quickly. It's just a very intense and very difficult task to do. So I began by doing my history A-level paper one first. The paper was alright, and to my surprise, it was the first time I completed the entire paper on time and actually had some time to check my answers, which was never the case when I did the practice paper. I was very lucky that I got a question that I actually prepared for. Right, the question was actually alright. And we will talk about what the question asked in this video, but maybe I will do a separate video talking about my history exam uh, in detail, specifically. But maybe not now, right? But history paper was alright, and I really enjoyed the questions. I think it was very good question. The sources are great. They are very entertaining, and I just love the question so much. Like, it was great. But I'm not so sure about how I did for it though. I'm not so sure about my performance for history paper one. I would like to think that I did quite well for it, but it was quite a good paper. Right. So after that, I did TMUA. I went into a different hall, uh, and and it was just around 30 minutes gap in between. So I think I'm at sort of a disadvantage there because it was quite intense, and I have to face two papers instead of one. And if you know TMUA, you would know that it requires a lot of mental effort to get through the paper. But some people say that TMUA is actually the least difficult uh, maths paper as compared to the other admission tests. For example, STEP or MAT. Right. But I would say that I agree because I saw the STEP and math paper. I was just glad that I didn't have to sit for those papers. Uh, but TMUA was also no joke, right? And it does quite get progressively harder every single year. Uh, and since this is the last year where applicants do have to sit for the TMUA papers, uh, I think this is sort of at the climax of TMUA difficulty because since this is the last year, people are going to sit for it anyway. So it was quite difficult. That's what I thought. And when I entered the paper, I was just like, relax, you've got this. You've prepared so hard for it. Like, uh, yeah, then I started doing the paper. And since I was so wrong, right? Because the papers were actually quite difficult for my standard. Paper one was more difficult than paper two. That much I can say. But I think they test different stuff. One tests your reasoning and another tests your knowledge or whatever. That's the official line, right? Um, but I looked on Reddit and I sort of looked through the comment section to see what other people think. Well, some people think that paper one was more difficult. Some think that paper two was more difficult. So that was just personal opinion. So for me, paper one was the more difficult one. But after I completed paper one, I was already very tired, and I'm not sure how I did for paper two because I think it's understandable. After I completed the history paper one and TMUA paper one, I was just like, man, let me rest, right? Uh, but I just tried my best to get as good a grade in paper two as possible. Yeah, but I have nothing to complain. Basically, okay. So that was on the test day, very intense and quite difficult papers. So after the test, what do I think about it? Well, I think it was a tragedy. I was quite dejected. Even until now, I was suffering from kind of misery because of how difficult the tests were. I was just feeling quite sad, basically, in general, because I just prepared so hard for it. Yet I do not believe that there was anything that I could have done to get a better grade, and I've already tried my best. So yeah, so right now the best thing for me to do was just to focus on the rest of my papers and just to wait until 28th of November until I receive my TMUA results. I'm just gonna make a slight guess here about what I'm gonna get on Thursday. I think that, well, I'm definitely doing worse for paper one than I did for paper two. I think paper one conservatively estimate 8 to 13. I think so, but I couldn't reasonably estimate that I get better than that. There was a, there was no grounds for that. I think I guessed a lot of the questions. For paper two, I would guess that I might get around 10 to 17, 10 to 17. So it was a very broad range. I mean, I could get better than that if I was very lucky. But again, there were a few questions that I did not quite know how to do. Yeah, so basically, it was quite a disaster for me. Not for everyone else, but that's how I personally think about the paper. And right now I was just recovering from all that stress and all that disappointment and get on with my life and the rest of my papers. And yeah, that's how I feel about the test. If you have anything to say about it, please let me know. Please comment in the section below. I would love to hear what you think about the test. And otherwise, we'll see in the next video. Bye.